Colorado is getting a lot of hate for barely beating North Dakota State. Are we going to hold that same energy with Oregon barely beating Idaho? They were like a 48-point favorite. And Sam, I lost so much money today taking Oregon to cover that minus 40. I was watching this game rooting for Idaho to win. Because I was like, if you're not going to cover, you might as well just go ahead, drop dead, and lose. It's like you're Oregon going against Idaho, and you can't even pick up a fourth and inches, man. You got your offensive linemen tripping over each other. Like, how do we contextualize the week one performances of Colorado and Oregon?
You do that because, well, I'm going to give Oregon a similar, not exact, but probably similar treatment in this game to what I did with Michigan last year after Bowling Green. It Oregon gained double the yardage that Idaho did. They controlled the clock. They moved the ball well in between the 20s on most of their drives, but they just couldn't punch it in. Now, I still think Oregon's a team that can win it all. The issue with Colorado is I've seen Oregon last year and the year before look really good. With Colorado, it's the fact that they kind of look the same as they did last year. Granted, a little bit better on the lines of scrimmage, a little bit better at wide receiver and quarterback. But there's not the body of work as in wins and losses and also consistent game control for me to, treat those games the same. I mean, objectively, just as a single game, probably, but you look at like what they have in front of them. Oregon still has some time. They play Boise State this coming weekend, and maybe Oregon is that bad, but I'm 99.9% sure they're not. Colorado has to travel to Nebraska, who, ran for, I forget the exact numbers, but they dominated UTEP, did what they were supposed to do. They beat them 40-7. Raiola looked pretty good, and they ran for nearly 5 yards per carry, over 200 yards. They have a quarterback now, and a true freshman who's good. And while Colorado can win that game, seeing what I've seen in the past and against North Dakota State. Here's another thing. Oregon scored early, and they were kind of like in that zone where they could have broke through and just blown them out, and they didn't do it. And they let Idaho hang around, and then Idaho got back. Colorado was a little bit different because from the gate, North Dakota State was competing with them for like 3 quarters. Then they pulled away a little bit. North Dakota State nearly came back. Honestly, and I don't know if this is true or not, but I don't think Michigan's win over Fresno State is close to Colorado's either. They'd probably be closer because Fresno State was more competitive with Michigan than Idaho was with Oregon. Scoreboard wise, of course not, but the box score only tells you so much. I mean, Oregon was up, I think, 14-0 at the half against Idaho, with easily could have been 21 or 28 with the yardage they had. Michigan was lucky to be up by 7 against Fresno State because they got their first TD on a pick, basically, in good field position on their first drive. I just think that with Colorado, they have to put things together at the lines of scrimmage, because dropping back and playing hero ball and taking deep shots, I mean, that's why West Virginia lost to Penn State, because all Garrett Green can do, and I'm not saying Shedeur is Garrett Green. He's like 100 times better than Garrett Green. Garrett Green is a gimmick quarterback, but he is. All he does is take deep shots, scramble. It's not effective against elite defenses. He's like completes 50% of his throw. I'm having to hear analysts say this guy's like a good QB. I'm like, do not be deceived by the fact. It's the same thing with Jalen Milroe last year, although I think Milroe last year was way better than Green in general. Those deep passes mess with box score numbers. And you can tell when someone says that Garrett Green is like a top 10 or top 15 or great quarterback, that they're looking at the box score and they're not
All right.
accounting for strength of schedule. It's that's the reason why Penn State like defensively did so well. By the way, they actually may have the Big Ten's best defense. I don't know exactly, but you could take away the most from all the games in week one. You can take a decent amount away from Penn State. They were pretty impressive. If Colorado can play well in the trenches, if their defense can improve, and if really their offense can improve and not stall out randomly, then they could be like a Walmart version of 2022 TCU.
You know what Colorado reminds me of? You remember
Who?
those Texas Tech Mike Leach coach teams? They were air raid, not really a lot of defense, but they had great receivers, they had a good quarterback, and they ain't care too much about running the football, but they could sling that rock with the best of them. And when I watch Colorado, they are deep at receiver. Like when I said they had the top 10 wide receiving core coming into this season, like I wasn't saying that to be like biased or overly optimistic. Like all four of their wide receivers, LeJontay Western, Travis Hunter, Jimmy Horn Jr., and Will Shepard, all four of those guys are going to be playing on Sundays next year. And with Shedeur Sanders, you give him time to throw, he's going to carve you up. But defensively, like, they didn't look to improve. Like, they did play better in the second half, but it's like they had that North Dakota State quarterback out there, Cam Miller, looking like he was the second coming of Johnny Manziel. And when I watch Oregon, it's like, I'm not going to fret too much on their week one performance just based off their track record. We know that Oregon has struggled to beat teams they've should have blown out in the past. Like last year, they struggled against Texas Tech. So I'll give them the benefit of a doubt. But Colorado hasn't really earned that with, them going 4-8 last year. And with them playing Nebraska next week, we're about to find out just how truly good this year's Colorado team is. And with Oregon, the fact that you lost the battle in the trenches against Idaho concerns me because you're going up against a Boise State team where their running back is probably the best in the nation right now. He has 6 touchdowns in this game. Like, I don't care if you're going up against a jabroni FCS team. I mean, when your running back is carrying the load, 6 touchdowns in the game is insanity. Like,